r/ProRevenge.
A shitty warehouse. So my life has been in the crapper for a while now, but a tiny bit of revenge can feel really good. It does not end what I'm going through and is only a small chapter, but still. So with COVID crap going on, I was working some small jobs just to stay working. Namely, I was working at a Walmart and also at Lowe's. Well, as things eased up a bit, more job opportunities opened up and I interviewed for warehouse manager at a company I will call Neurotic Company to protect the identity of those involved. I was immediately offered the job, though at a pay rate I thought was a joke for a manager. Still, it was much better than Walmart. They put me on an hourly rate of pay and gave me a 50 hours a week schedule to meet my minimum income expectations. The pay was insulting in some ways because of the range of things the owners wanted me to be able to do, including welding, plumbing, electrical and carpentry, all on top of managing. The warehouse had gone through a short shutdown because of COVID and was ramping back up slowly. I managed a day crew of 2 that had been there forever, a night crew that at the moment had 1 person and 4 drivers that had been there a while. My hours aligned mostly with the night crew as they needed the most help and the daytime guys could handle it well enough. So I managed at this warehouse for 8 months, that was all I could take. In that time the owner slowly eroded my power. I watched him tell countless lies, change his mind on things at random and change our working hours at the drop of a hat. He was an ass. Also, the whole place was covered in cameras and he would come in to talk to us about very specific things he had watched us do on camera while he was sitting at home. It was disturbing. Turnover was huge as the owner would simply piss people off and they would leave. It made my job impossible. But the other managers would tell me, hang in there, he will be gone soon. Eventually I had a crew that was loyal and worked for me. The only problem was if I was not in, they would call out to avoid working with the owner. Then finally it came, the owner was supposed to move to Florida to be near his grandson. His wife was making him, I think he wanted to stick around and just run the business into the ground. A couple days before he left, the owner took me aside and gave me a huge write-up for all sorts of dumb crap that was untrue and then yelled at me for an hour saying things like, I bet you are sitting there thinking, how can this place make any money without me? Well, I was successful before you all by myself. And so forth. This of course was a lie. He had been given the company by his father and survived largely on loyalty from the customer base and a single product they were the exclusive distributor for in the region. As he left for Florida, he sent an email naming out the management team and excluding me. So I told the other managers I felt like I was being treated like a supervisor rather than a manager, and I would therefore act as a supervisor rather than a manager. I started looking for a new job. I planned to give a normal 2 weeks notice and leave peacefully. Then one night I had a funny feeling and it made me take most of my personal stuff home for whatever reason, had a lot of my own tools in my desk and such. The next morning the stated management team took me into the office and fired me. The notice they gave me simply said, you are terminated for insubordination, and they refused to cite an incident. To this day I am convinced that the owner watched me take my personal tools home on camera from Florida and then called them and said fire him first thing. Then the revenge. On my drive home from being fired, my shift started 2 hours before my night workers. I called my workers one at a time and told them what happened, said I had enjoyed working with them and if they ever needed a reference I would be happy to help. I had a fantastic crew at this point, all good people despite hating the owner. A few hours later the calls started coming in. The entire crew had called out for the night. I had a good giggle about it. But 2 days later I started to get more calls. To the man, the entire warehouse night crew had quit in loyalty to me. I was told they had been offered $4 per hour raises to stay and all refused them. After the warehouse workers quit, I got a call from my favorite driver. I had mixed feelings on my drivers as a whole. He told me that none of the drivers had certifications for driving the trucks we had, air brakes, and suggested I report it to the DOT. Let's just say that from what I heard, the owner had to come back from Florida at his wife's protest to take back over. The only people they could get for the night shift are a druggie who they fired previously when he got naked in the warehouse while high on LSD and a guy who they previously fired for making far too many mistakes. Deliveries were truncated for some time because they could only use the van instead of the 30-box trucks they have while the drivers got certified. Oh, and as I understand it, there was a hefty fine.
A response to the post.
Isn't it nice to have staff that are loyal to you personally? I was director of software development for a small but international company. You've never heard of them, but you almost certainly use their products every day. My team were all very loyal to me personally. They were from the beginning, because I wasn't the boss quit, and the entire team came to me and said, "We won't quit if you become the new boss." So I did. I was boss for a year, then they started making things very painful both for me and for my staff. I finally decided I'd had enough, found another job, and quit. There were 3 programmers, counting myself. Programming was only a tiny part of my duties, but I did a little. 2 left, and only the most junior guy stayed. He was 25, and I was 43, but I arranged for him to get my job, as the only person left who knows how anything works, and told him confidentially to demand at least what I had been making in order to stay. The entire QA staff quit. Heads rolled in upper management because without any of us, they couldn't even touch any deadlines and they lost almost all their clients.
A response to this comment.
Wait, upper management had to face consequences for their bad decisions? Personal consequences? Come on, you're making this up.